The Corinthos collapse, betrayal, obsession, and the unraveling of Port Charles. General Hospital spoilers reveal a shadow war threatening to tear the city apart. In the treacherous, high-stakes world of Port Charles, where power is a currency as volatile as the lives of its inhabitants, a new and deeply disturbing obsession is taking hold. It is an obsession born not of revenge or ambition, but of a betrayal so profound that it's tearing through the very heart of Sonny Corinthos' world, threatening to dismantle his empire, his sanity, and the very soul of the city he has long dominated. The once untouchable kingpin of Port Charles, a man whose instincts have always meant survival, has made a catastrophic error in judgment, a single lapse that has opened the floodgates to something far worse than external enemies, a quiet, calculated internal collapse orchestrated by a mastermind lurking in the shadows. This is not just another turf war. This is a full-blown transformation of Sonny's world, a psychological war where the greatest weapon is doubt, and the casualties are trust, loyalty, and the very fabric of relationships that once seemed unbreakable. The seeds of deception, a Trojan horse in Sonny's inner circle. The genesis of this devastating storm lies in a seemingly innocuous decision made by Sonny Corinthos in a moment of perceived vulnerability. In the wake of growing threats and shifting alliances, Sonny, the ever-vigilant protector of his family and his empire, sought to reinforce his security. He placed his trust in two recently hired guards, Paul and Peter, brought in to stabilize his network and stand as a bulwark against the dangers lurking outside his walls. It was a move born of caution, a king fortifying his castle. But instead of delivering protection, Paul and Peter delivered chaos. The truth, now painfully clear, is that they were not loyal employees. They were moles, carefully planted agents working directly for Jens Sidwell, the very man orchestrating Sonny's downfall from the shadows. What makes this betrayal even more chilling is the subtlety with which it unfolded. Paul and Peter didn't launch a loud attack or stage a violent coup. Their weapon was silence. Their strategy was invisibility. By embedding themselves within Sonny's inner circle, they gained unfettered access to critical information, his movements, his vulnerabilities, and the intimate details of his life and business. They stood guard at his doors. They were in rooms with his family, all while posing as his protectors. Their betrayal wasn't just about sabotage. It was a campaign of psychological warfare, a slow, insidious corruption of trust from within. The damage they've done is more profound than any bullet ever could be, for they have infected Sonny's world with a poison that is far more lethal than any physical weapon: paranoia. Sonny's decision to bring them in now stands as one of the most devastating missteps of his entire reign. A man who has built his empire on a foundation of sharp instincts and the ability to read people has been utterly duped. The realization of this colossal failure has triggered an obsession in Sonny, an urgent, unrelenting need to retrace every moment, every assignment, every conversation that involved Paul and Peter. He is haunted by the idea that their presence may have contaminated every major move he made in recent months. Every failure now takes on a new, sinister meaning. Every close call feels like a meticulously orchestrated setup. His mind, once a fortress of calculated strategy, has become a battlefield where every memory is a potential landmine and every friendly face a potential mask for a traitor. The domino effect, a cascade of tragedy and mistrust. The most devastating consequence of Paul and Peter's treachery is the death of Natalia, a woman Sonny had tried to protect. Her death, initially believed to be an overdose, now appears to have been a part of their mission all along. With the investigation into her death still ongoing and the toxicology results pointing toward possible foul play, Sonny's position is growing more precarious by the hour. Every new piece of evidence strengthens the horrifying theory that Natalia didn't overdose on her own, that someone altered her medication, poisoned her alcohol, or manipulated her final hours to appear accidental. And with Paul and Peter, men with unrestricted access to her room and her schedule, as the prime suspects, the truth becomes clearer and more horrific. The idea that he might have unintentionally delivered Natalia into the hands of her killers is a weight Sonny may never fully recover from. The guilt is overwhelming, not just because he made the wrong call, but because people suffered and died under the illusion of safety he provided. This explosive revelation has ignited a chain reaction inside the Corinthos organization. Longtime allies are shaken, trusted advisors are paranoid. The very people who once stood at Sonny's side with unquestioning loyalty are beginning to wonder, if Paul and Peter were able to infiltrate this deeply, who else has been compromised? The ripple effects are destabilizing everything. Meetings are held in secret, conversations are guarded, and relationships are fraying under the weight of suspicion. The once unbreakable bonds of loyalty that defined Sonny's empire are now cracking under the strain of a pervasive, corrosive mistrust. The mastermind's grand plan, a war of annihilation. Behind this insidious campaign of betrayal stands Jens Sidwell, a shadowy figure whose motives seem to extend far beyond the mere acquisition of power. Sidwell isn't using guns, intimidation, or brute force. He's using something far more insidious: doubt. With surgical precision, he has begun to poison trust, implant traitors into Sonny's inner circle, and manipulate events so subtly that even the most vigilant eyes miss the signs. He has created an environment where Sonny would doubt everything, and now that the truth is out, the psychological torment is just beginning. Sidwell's reach, as revealed by Selina's final, desperate message, is terrifyingly vast. He has moles not just within Sonny's organization, but also in the Port Charles Police Department, the Family Court, and even the World Security Bureau, WSB. This widespread corruption raises the stakes of the storyline to an unprecedented level. It's not just a mob war anymore. It's a war for the soul of Port Charles itself, a city where the lines between law and crime are becoming increasingly blurred. But the most devastating part of Selina's confession was the revelation of an internal betrayal within her own network. She named a mole, someone she had raised, mentored, and protected, who had sold her out to Sidwell in exchange for power. This revelation, which turned Brick pale and left Jason speechless, proved that Sidwell's strategy was not just about weakening his enemies, but about turning them into weapons against themselves. By framing Selina for the arson at Charlie's and framing Sonny for Natalia's death, Sidwell is constructing a deadly illusion, one that pushes both power players into a destructive conflict with each other. Sonny now questions whether Selina betrayed him. Selina, before her death, questioned whether Sonny was trying to pin the fire on her to cover his own failures. The alliance, already built on cautious respect, is now shattered, and Sidwell watches it all unfold, never once exposing himself, never once leaving a trail. This is psychological warfare at its finest, methodical, invisible, and devastating. The unraveling of Port Charles, a city on the brink. The shadow war orchestrated by Jens Sidwell is no longer a contained conflict. Its tendrils are spreading through every corner of Port Charles, and the city's most powerful players are finding themselves caught in its web. The once untouchable kingpin, Sonny Corinthos, is now the subject of whispers and open conversations about his decline. Has Sonny lost his edge? Is he now surrounded by ghosts wearing masks? The sense of invincibility that once surrounded the Corinthos name is now bleeding out, replaced by a growing sense of vulnerability and paranoia. The key figures in Sonny's life are now locked in their own battles for survival. Jason Morgan, the stoic and loyal enforcer, once the impenetrable fortress at Sunnyside, is now leading the charge to uncover the full extent of the infiltration. Having already suspected something was amiss, Jason is now connecting the dots, from the missing communications and falsified logs to the misdirected assignments. However, he is also consumed by his own personal battle, trying to stop Britt's unraveling obsession with Daisy from leading to irreversible consequences. Jason understands that the city he thought he knew has shifted under his feet, and with Sonny destabilizing, he knows it will fall to him to hold the line, not just for one family, but for the soul of Port Charles. Brick, Sonny's oldest and most trusted ally, is haunted by his failure to protect Selina and his inability to convince Sonny of the looming danger. What once seemed like isolated incidents now form a sinister pattern that he had tried to warn Sonny about. Selina's death was a personal failure for Brick, and that grief has been transformed into a cold, hard resolve. Sidwell has just created a new enemy, one who wouldn't rest until every thread of his empire is exposed and burned to ash. Carly Corinthos, Sonny's wife, is watching the man she loves unravel before her eyes. She is caught between her loyalty to Sonny and the growing fear that he is losing his grip on reality. The weight of secrecy and the constant threat to her family are taking their toll, and she must navigate the treacherous waters of Sonny's paranoia while trying to protect her children from the fallout of his crumbling empire. The younger generation. The chaos is also seeping into the lives of the younger generation. Christina, still shaken from the fire at Charlie's, can feel the growing tension around her father. Sasha and Michael are tightening their circle, trying to protect Daisy from the unseen forces that are watching her. The children of the Corinthos family, once sheltered by their father's power, are now on the front lines of a war they don't fully understand. The final act, a reckoning in Port Charles. What began as a single infiltration has now erupted into a full-blown crisis, a crisis that threatens to consume Port Charles. Sidwell didn't just plan informants. He planted fear, doubt, and instability. The obsession isn't only Sonny's now. It's contagious, spreading through the ranks, taking hold of everyone who once believed they were safe. Selina's final act, her encrypted message, did more than reveal a name. It revealed a truth no one wanted to face. Sidwell wasn't just targeting power. He was reshaping the very definition of it, turning allies into suspects, turning protectors into predators, and turning grief into a weapon. Now, with Selina dead, Sonny consumed by fury and paranoia, Brooke haunted by failure, and Jason preparing for war, the game has changed forever. Because in Port Charles, secrets don't stay buried, and when the dead speak, as Selina did, the living are forced to answer. The nightmare is now closing in, not a war fought in the open but a quiet, calculated implosion. Every day the fear grows, every hour the cracks widen. And the most terrifying part? Sidwell isn't done. This was only the beginning. His war isn't about victory. It's about annihilation, of trust, of reputation, of legacy. And if Sonny doesn't realize the full scope of what's happening, if he can't find a way to see past the illusions, he won't just lose control. He'll lose everything. The future of Port Charles hangs in the balance, and the real chaos, the final reckoning, is only just beginning to take shape. The question remains, can Sonny Corinthos, the man who once ruled the city, save himself and his world from the abyss before it's too late? Or will he become the final casualty of a war he never saw coming? The answer lies buried deep within the shadows of Port Charles, waiting to be unearthed in the explosive chapters to come. Thanks for watching this videos. Please hit the subscribe button for more updated news.